Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. We missed a few days there. I was out in Las Vegas at Summer League, but now we're back in action. Happy to be here and lots to discuss in the world of the NBA. I'm Trevor Lane. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane, joined by Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, I miss you. Miss doing shows with you.
I missed you too, man. It's been it feels like it's been forever since we've recorded. I don't know what the last actual time was, but it does feel like it's been a long time. But we're back at it. It's we're ready to go. We are by no means, for anybody watching, this is not going to be like a 3 or 4 hour show where we're going to recap every single transaction. We will get to those. We're going to be doing kind of individual team wrap-up shows coming up here pretty soon where we talk about each team and their off-season because it seems like we're getting kind of towards the end of it. But today's more just about catching up on the bigger news that's out there, a little more timely stuff. And let's dive in because I think there's a big man maybe finally on the move.
Yeah, Deandre Ayton. Maybe heading to Pawnee, gonna go head over to JJ's Diner. I don't know. We'll see here, but look,
get some waffles.
That's right. Get some waffles and maybe stop by, pay a little tribute to little Sebastian. But yeah, Deandre Ayton sounding like he could wind up heading to the Indiana Pacers, and this makes sense. I mean, they're one of the only teams still out there with cap space. Them and the Spurs really doesn't sound like the Suns are really interested in paying Deandre Ayton a max salary. So Keith, is this pretty much has to be a sign and trade, right? I don't think the Pacers have the ability to just sign him outright, or are they close enough to where maybe they can get there?
Yeah, they could probably get there. I think they're like one smallish move away. But I'm tending to think this may be a sign and trade where what they do is they use cap space plus an outgoing salary to match because of DeAndre Ayton's restricted status and the fact that he's going to get a pretty healthy raise if he gets even approaching a max contract. He triggers base year compensation rules, which means he counts for only half his salary going out while the full salary coming in. So now the nice thing for the Pacers and maybe for the Suns, if they're so interested, Miles Turner kind of fits right in that sweet spot of you could do Ayton for Turner. Ayton comes in on the Pacers side at a max deal. Turner goes out. Makes sense, too, because if you're the Pacers, if you're signing DeAndre Ayton, certainly don't need Miles Turner. If you're the Suns, if you don't have DeAndre Ayton, you could use a center. So why not Miles Turner? And then, it kind of comes together. What was interesting this morning, we're recording this on Monday, Brian Windhorst said, on Get Up on ESPN said things are moving and it could happen as soon as today. And then he alluded to cap space or maybe a sign and trade and those kind of things. And after his trip to the fantasy world with the Utah stuff, we certainly want to pay attention there because I was had the internet all aflame for a few days. But I think what becomes really interesting in the DeAndre Ayton stuff is Malcolm Brogdon's trade to the Boston Celtics was made official, but it's always, whenever you see these things, it's official pending a physical. Mm-hmm. And Brogdon is supposedly in Boston today, again, Monday, taking his physical maybe today, maybe tomorrow. So that seems to be what's maybe holding up the timing on, all right, Ayton to the Pacers and all this other stuff, because they've got to get Brogdon off the books to clear out the salary room and all that other stuff that they needed to do to be able to do this. So it's all kind of chained together, but it seems like we're maybe heading towards a resolution on this one.
Do you think the Pacers are going to have to add stuff in if the basis of the deal is Turner for Ayton, and that's us guessing, right? That's just the salaries work and all of that. But if that is kind of the backbone of the deal, do the Pacers have to add stuff in, or because this is a sign and trade scenario, is that going to be treated differently? How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, that's interesting. I would assume maybe not. If we go back in the Pacers history, Herb Simon, their owner, has been very clear. He doesn't like to do the restricted free agent process because he doesn't want to do the whole, hey, let's tie each other up and play all those games. Think about when they initially acquired Malcolm Brogdon. They could have just signed him outright, and they said to the Bucks, hey, let's just do this as a sign and trade, get this deal done and go. So that may be the direction they want to go again here. And now, why you want to have the cap space to be able to do it, or the ability easily to get to the cap space, is then you put the pressure on the Suns to negotiate from a point of like, hey, we could just do an offer
Right.
sheet and put you in the crappy position of losing him for nothing or matching it. And then so from the Suns side, I don't know how much leverage they have to really say, hey, we demand you give us, another player or something along those lines. But there's always a chance it could expand. You could have something where the Suns are like, this guy no longer really fits with us. What do you think about this deal? And then you send this back to us or something like that. I've seen people saying, what if it was Buddy Hield involved and, Jay Crowder and somebody were headed off to the other way. I think Jay Crowder and Landry Shamet were the players they're thrown out there, not recommended, but thrown out there. So we'll see. I was hoping that ping was it.
It's that time of year when every time you hear something go
right?
off, you rush and you check it out, but that was not it.
I was hoping. But yeah, so I'm not sure, where this is going to go for now. I think this is, we'll see, in the next couple of days. It wouldn't surprise me if it's made into a bigger deal where there's more pieces moving around, or it could be very simple and straightforward. But I think Indiana now really makes the most sense as the landing spot for Ayton.
Well, let's assume this goes down. Miles Turner for DeAndre Ayton. The next guy we need to talk about is Kevin Durant. What does this mean for the Suns in their pursuit of KD?
I don't know that it really changes all that much, to be quite honest. I think a lot of people went initially to, DeAndre Ayton, but there were just a million challenges with Ayton going to Brooklyn. One is, again, there's that base year compensation stuff. Durant obviously makes way more money. Then there's also the hard cap issues, because that would trigger the hard cap, and the Nets are, they can't even see it anymore. They're so far past the hard cap line. So I think we're in a position where that one never really felt all that realistic, just from a salary cap mechanics side. And then we started getting reports that the Nets weren't really that high on bringing in Ayton, which I guess would maybe make sense. And they did just re-sign Nick Claxton to a nice contract, about $17 million or so, $20 million if he hits a couple bonuses. So I think what we're gonna see there is, if that deal still gets done, there are other avenues towards it. It might mean, a 3-for-1 kind of trade or something like that. But that's, part of it. And we're hearing, through the reports again, Brian Windhorst, I believe this was on the Hoop Collective, but I think he did touch on Get Up as well. We've heard Woj mention it as in passing too, or in reporting, is that the market is just not necessarily what the Nets thought it would be for KD. They thought it was going to be, hey, we're going to get this massive return and let's go. And I think there's just a lot of complications that I just don't know that some teams are really ready to meet in a Kevin Durant trade. I'm going to keep doing the Kevin Garnett thing. I don't know why. I just have a mental block on that.
It's okay. It's okay. It's right up there with how many times we were calling, and now we can do it, but we kept saying this summer when we were dealing with COVID years and it wasn't really the off season in the summer and all of that.
Exactly. Yeah. It was like November.
Right. That's what it's going to be. But when we're looking at this situation, I think the problem, or one of the problems, it's the Rudy Gobert trade. And that to me is a sticking point, because if you're the Nets, you're looking at that and you're saying, well, we need more than that. Clearly, Kevin Durant is better than Rudy Gobert, significantly better, I would say. So therefore, we should get more in a trade. And he's under contract for 4 years, and we should get more than that. Other teams are looking at it and saying, Minnesota gave too much here. This is the outlier trade. This is not the baseline trade that you want to set your price off of. We're not going to go to that level. We think Minnesota paid too much here for Rudy Gobert. So then you wind up with this chasm between what teams are willing to offer and what the Nets are expecting to get. And that's going to be tough to close that gap. I think the Rudy Gobert trade really did kind of throw a wrench into this whole Kevin Durant thing. If it had happened a couple weeks before, or if the Gobert trade hadn't gone down, I think we'd be looking at a much more robust trade market, let me say.
Yeah, I think there's even a chance the deal would have been done already. I think there's a chance we would have seen this trade already complete and everybody would have moved on and gotten off to other things. So yeah, I absolutely am with you on that one. I think that threw a major monkey wrench in things of like, now what do we do? Right. Cause I mean, I made the joke, if Gobert is worth the equivalent of 5 first, Durant's like a 10 package on that. And I like Rudy Gobert. He's very good. I think both you and I are higher on him than a lot of other people are. But I mean, this is Kevin Durant. He might have won MVP last year if he didn't, end up getting hurt mid-season. So yeah, it's definitely going to be one worth watching. And then that, I think, leads directly into what happens with Kyrie Irving. And we hear, I gotta believe when Kyrie Irving is traded, it's got to be the Lakers, because we're not even hearing another team. And every once in a while, you get some surprise team comes out of nowhere and makes it happen. But I think you got to be very careful with Irving and Durant of, you don't want to trade for, no matter who you are, trade for them and just end up in a position where they're not happy, because then it's just going to turn into, well, I don't want to be here any more than I wanted to be there. What do we do now? So yeah, let's see. I mean, that one just seems to be more of the Nets saying, hey, let's wait. Because I think what the Nets are looking at with that trade is, if we trade Kevin Durant, then are we looking at acquiring Russell Westbrook basketball player or Russell Westbrook giant expiring contract, which are two very different things, right? Because if you're basically saying, all right, well, we're not going to be very good anyway, so let's, we can afford to keep Russ and just play it out. Or if it's, well, we're looking to redo something, then it's, can we get a third team? Can we find another way? And that's where that becomes the challenge on the Irving thing, which is why I think I don't want to go as far as saying that deal's sitting there for them to do whenever they want, but I think that's one where you can get in there, whatever bridges there are to cross. I think they can get there, get that negotiation done relatively simply, get it solved, and off we go. But it's really dependent on where are we going for the Nets for the next year plus. If we're trying to be a super competitive team, I don't know that we really want Westbrook with Ben Simmons. It doesn't really make sense. So let's move along. So yeah, a lot still to be answered there on the Brooklyn front.
Yeah, and I mean, if the Kevin Durant trade doesn't come, if they just decide we're not trading, then what happens with the Kyrie Irving trade from? We'll have to see how things go down with all of that. I think that would, at the very least, perhaps change what they would value in a trade, where maybe they would need a third team and they'd want to get pieces back that they can take to Kevin Durant and say, look, see, we can still win. We can still here. Let's go. Off we go. 4 years under contract. So certainly something that the entire NBA is going to continue to buzz about. It was a lot of the chatter in Summer League was about this situation, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, what's going on here. And everybody's just, all eyes on the Nets at this point.
Everybody I talked to, you lived it for a few days. Everybody I talked to said within like the first 2 or 3 topics you talked about when you first saw somebody was, what do you think is going to happen with KD and Kyrie, right? And that's, So, I mean, and we're sitting here now, middle of July. I thought this one would have been done before the moratorium. I thought it was going to be deal agreed to, announced, as the moratorium lifts, and off we go. And now we're hearing, the Nets are in no rush. They might I don't think they're going to take this to training camp. That seems weird to me, but I was completely wrong on Ben Simmons, because I said about 1 million times, that'll get done. They're not going to want to bring him in. And clearly that was a weird sideways situation. But yeah, I'm very, very curious to see how this all comes to fruition here over the next, whether it's a couple days or a couple months. We'll see.
That's just it. There's no real urgency right now on the part of anybody to get this done in this moment. So we'll see what ultimately happens here. Speaking of players who could potentially be on the move, Gone-avan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert's former teammate. But the Utah Jazz so far have pushed back. There was, when Rudy Gobert got traded, there was this kind of frenzy where GMs around the NBA went, are they blowing it up? Is this it? Is this it? Are they blowing it? Let's make that call. Let's see if we can get Gone-avan Mitchell. And Danny Ainge's phone was ringing off the hook for a little bit there, but so far all we've heard is that the Jazz have pushed back.
Which guaranteed he loved.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. He's probably saying, "Well, send me your offers just so I can see them."
Yeah,
and then let's go from there. But so far the Jazz have pushed back. Which, I mean, look, even if the Jazz said long term we plan to move on from Gone-avan Mitchell, publicly saying no, we're not going to move him is what you do. It's what you do in this situation, unless you've already gotten the offer that you want. In that case, you just take it. But the Jazz do seem pretty adamant that they're going to try to build around Gone-avan Mitchell rather than trade him away.
Yeah, and I think this is the sense I'm getting from this one is hey, if you blow us away with an offer, we're willing to talk. But if you're not going to do that, then you know what, we'll go into next year. We're going to kind of see, we'll figure out what we are as a team and becoming as a team. They have done in free agency so far outside of the Gobert trade, they haven't done anything. They haven't re-signed anybody. They haven't added anybody new. That's it. That is the only transaction they made. Now, obviously, I hired Will Hardy as their new head coach too, so I don't want to overlook that. But very clearly to me, there was a Gobert trade done. Now let's let things settle. Let's see where it all goes from here, and then we'll figure all of it out after that. So I think now we're kind of sitting in a spot where, all right, whatever comes next for them. Because their roster, it makes no sense right now. I mean, they've basically one center because Udoka Azubuike is hurt right now. So it's their only center is Walker Kessler, the first round pick they got from the Wolves in the Gobert trade. They still have Bogdanovich. They still have Conley. They now have Clarkson and Malik Beasley. That's weird. That's not really a great fit. You got Patrick Beverly. Does he make sense on?
Does he stay or
team?
do they buy him out or trade him?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yep. Yeah. So it's one of those things where I think there's probably more work to be done. But as to the prior topic, there's just not a lot of urgency right now because, who are we competing against? What are we rushing to do? Let's just kind of let things play out a little bit because what we're seeing is teams are taking care of the last pieces of business. Like we saw the Knicks finally complete the trade with the Pistons to send Burks and Noel, which finally will open up the salary cap space to go sign Jalen Brunson. But that's what we're starting to see now. And then it's Ayton, Colin Sexton still sitting out there without a deal. Another, highly, regarded restricted free agent, and then Durant, Irving. So it's all just kind of, let's wait and see.
Which is funny that this stuff is getting done because we've been acting as though this stuff is done for weeks now, right? I mean, but technically it hadn't officially gone through at this point, even if teams were operating as though it has, and we were too. But in any event, we'll see what they ultimately do there. They don't really have a center. That was what connected them to DeAndre Ayton, but it doesn't appear that that's in the cards for the Utah Jazz.
There were some reports from the Jazz beat writers that that's just not a thing, and they're pretty tied in with the Utah group. It gets changed some as Danny Ainge has taken over. I feel like that's relationship has changed a little bit, but I don't think we're necessarily going to see them be a player, there. But if this Ayton thing, not to go all the way back to that topic, but if this doesn't come through with the Pacers, let's say by the middle of this week, then my eyebrows are going to raise a little bit and wonder, where is this going?
Right.
So.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. And that's going to be something to keep an eye on here. Because it felt like it was almost a week ago that we had heard that Ayton to the Pacers could be happening soon. I think that was John Gambadoro out of the Phoenix market was talking about that. And then nothing came of it, I think, but they've been waiting for the Brogdon situation to get all sorted out. So we'll see. Zion Williamson, need to talk about him. You've got some info on his contract because we talked about protections that were going to need to be put in the event of injury to try to keep the Pelicans from being in a really bad situation years down the road. What does that look like? Yeah,
so we there's, without getting super deep into the specifics on it, there are games played protections in years 2 through 4 of his extension. So he's under contract for his last year of his rookie scale deal this year. Year 1 of his extension, fully guaranteed. He'll get that money, the 30+ million. Or if he comes back and makes All NBA, he jumps to the 30% tier of the cap, and then he'll move into that grouping. But what they did was, which was interesting, David Griffin at the press conference said, or I don't know if it was the presser or just a media availability, but he said no options in the deal. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Then it came no trade bonus in the deal for Williamson either. And on top of that, they do have these protections against games played in years 2 through 4. My guess is it looks very similar to the Embiid structure. We saw Michael Porter Jr. get protections only on his last year of his extension, but a little bit of a different situation there. So my guess is what we're going to see in years 2 through 4, it's probably something in the 41-ish game, like half a season or something, where if he doesn't meet those, then they can get out of it and not owe him the full amount. And it's probably staggered salary protection in each year, or it's probably, 3/4 guaranteed or something in year one, and then from there. So no, not that
not it. I just looked. It's not it.
It kills me because that's one of those ones where it's Woj saying, "I already tweeted. Now here's the link to the article I wrote about what I tweeted about." It's like, you're killing me.
Come
Woj.
on, Woj.
Like, the one tweet was enough. But back to Zion. So we'll see that probably stagger down with those games played. Here's the key, though. Much like with Joel Embiid, in order to get out of it, you have to waive him. So it's not like all of a sudden his salary reduces and that's all you owe him. You have to waive him to get out of it. So it's really protecting you if
catastrophic injury.
Yeah, exactly. He just, can't get healthy, can't play, can't make it through more than, 10, 15 games. And then you can get out of it free and clear, which would be the worst case scenario for everybody.
Right.
I think Mason Ginsberg pointed this out on Twitter. And I think it was a really kind of an astute point, was this deal set up for both sides basically to say, let's just go play now.
Yeah.
That's all in the past. Get on the court and go play. And what I added to that was they also gave him that designated player language so that he gets the 30% if he makes all NBA. So the Pelicans even committed to, hey, if you come out and kick butt like you did a couple years ago, and you're that level of guy again, then we're happy to give you even more money, and go from there. So, this is, I've been saying, I know I didn't say it on this show, because we haven't talked in the last little bit. This was one where I think the player needed the team and the team needed the player. And that's, this was, they really took care of each other here, and now off we go.
Yeah, it's a good deal. So we'll see. Hopefully we get a healthy Zion next season, and he's able to live up to that potential, which is absolutely massive. Speaking of potential, James Wiseman, finally back in action in Summer League. Looked pretty good. I'll admit I didn't get to see the full game, but just seeing some of the highlights, he looked pretty healthy. And Keith, I think it was you put out there on Twitter that the Warriors' young bench unit would be like a really good starting five for a rebuilding team. Like, you've got Jordan Poole and Moody and Kuminga and Wiseman, and who am I missing there?
Dante DiVincenzo.
That's right. That this would be like, this is a true like 5-man unit here that would be really good for a young rebuilding team to have. And yet the Warriors, the champs, have them as their reserve unit. I mean, that's incredible.
It was funny the amount of people who pushed back, like, Wiseman's going to start. He was the number 2 pick. And I was like, over the guy who just won the NBA title. I mean, maybe eventually. And
just got paid.
And just got paid. Didn't get paid much, though. He got less than the non-taxpayer mid-level, which was a little interesting. I thought he was going to at least get 10, 11 million a year. Yeah. But obviously, Kevon Looney is very happy there. They stuck with him, too, after he had all those hip issues in the middle of his career. So, good for him to stick there. But, yeah, I mean, the goal would be, right, that by mid-season, Wiseman's your starter and looks great. But they ran their very first play. I don't know if you probably saw the highlight. But it was the very first play was to run an alley.
The lob.
For him, to get him right to the rim. Then he hit a 3-pointer shortly thereafter. Hit a couple really nice blocks. He was moving his feet well. His second stint and then his other stints after that weren't quite as good. He got caught a couple times reaching and looked a little slow. But for his first real game action, other than those couple G League games, looked pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, and always nice to see a young player back in action that's been dealing with injuries. Hopefully he's able to stay healthy this season. Let's go. I complained about this probably more than anybody else over the course of the season. So I am super thrilled that the take foul is going to be banned. Finally, the NBA has approved the elimination of the take foul, be 1 free throw plus the ball. This needed, everybody, it's not just me, everybody was saying this needs to go. This strategy is not good for the league because you're taking the most fascinating play, the most exciting play, a fast break, and you're turning it into the least exciting play, which is a sideline out of bounds. And so this is great. This is fantastic. The take foul hopefully will be a thing of the past because the math will no longer support it being a successful strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't have a lot to add other than let's just play, right? This is one of those things where, like, I always liken it to no one would do this on the playground. So like, why do we do it in the
Mhm.
NBA? And I realized it's very different things, but like, just, like, we want those fast breaks. We want those plays. They're exciting offensive plays. And you know what? Sometimes they're really exciting defensive plays. That's how you get chase down blocks and all the other stuff that happens. So yeah, no more take foul. Get it out of here. And this is the Celtics guy saying this, and nobody loves giving take fouls more than Grant Williams. I mean, for a stretch there, I made a meme. It was the one where like the guy's holding hands with his girlfriend, but he's looking at the other girl. That meme that goes around, and it was like Grant Williams getting back on defense, Grant Williams giving a take foul was the meme. And I used to post it every single time, and I used it. Somebody actually sent me, they're like, you use this meme 7 consecutive games. This was 2 years ago. That's how many take fouls he gave. So like, get it out of here, get it all the way out.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
and surprisingly, Russell Westbrook, who I had to watch, every game, was also up there in giving take fouls. That was like his thing. You would think it would be the other way, that teams, because he's so fast, that teams would be using take fouls against him. But as it turned out, teams were happy when he had the ball, so they didn't bother fouling him. So that's what we saw happen there. But there was something else though. We saw the Dallas Mavericks rule come down, which is what I think I'm just going to call it. The down in front rule, that the players can't be standing or getting in the way of spectators for too long.
Yeah, Chris Haynes reported on both of these for Yahoo Sports, that their bench decorum, they're going to really tighten that up too. But it's not as much about the whole Theo Pinson wearing the other team's color and passes to him and all that stuff. It was more about the NBA was inundated with complaints from fans who, quite frankly, they pay a ton of money for those seats behind the bench. And nobody complains when they get up, or I don't think people really complain when they stand for the last minute or so of the half or of a close game. It's when they're doing it for the entire game. You paid a lot of money for those seats. And if you can't see, what did you pay for? So that seems to be the impetus on this. And it's, I get it. It went too far. Like, at points where it's like, and I don't like when they're on the court.
Right.
And like really like defending corner threes in a way. There's a very in the East Finals, Kyle Lowry made contact with a Celtics shooter when he was on the sideline. So we'll see what the actual stuff is here and how they tighten up. But it does need to tighten up for sure.
And then lastly, we've got the play-in tournament is sticking around. This is the thing that had it was very split, very divided. I was for it. But I understood why a lot of people were saying, no, this isn't really something that we want. I ultimately landed on basically, if you're the 7 or the 8 seed, you don't like it. If you're anything else, you're probably okay with it. If you're the 9 or 10 seed, you certainly like it. But when I'm looking at this, just from an excitement standpoint, from the league perspective, I think it's been a lot of fun. And people have kind of come to accept it, because we've seen some very successful and very fun, exciting games to close out the season. And it's created more interest in kind of the bottom of the table as well. And I think it's done its part to some degree, not completely, but to some degree, curtail tanking. So I think this has worked, and I don't have a problem with this sticking around. I think it's a welcome thing.
Yeah, you generally have, from the trade deadline on, we were in seasons where there were sometimes 8 to 10 teams that were actively not trying to lose. I think the combination of flattening the lottery odds, so you don't need to be the worst team in the league, and the play-in tournament has really squeezed that. Yeah. It made it so more teams are in it longer, more teams are playing it out longer, and that's just better. It just makes for more exciting basketball at the end of the year, and those kind of things. And I get it, if you're 7 or 8. But it's just like when, for years, it was the 9th team in the West was like, we would have been in the East playoffs. Yes, you're correct, but you're not in the East. And the answer to that is win more games. If you don't want to be 7 and 8 and in the play-in tournament, win more games, right? That's always the answer. That's the answer to all your problems in the NBA is win a few more games and you won't be in that situation. So, but yeah, I was unsure. I would like to see them bring back the games back qualifier, because I don't want to see a team that's the 10th seed and that is 15 games out, like having a shot. And it is going to happen at some point. Like, I think that's silly. I also think like Minnesota what did they have? Like a 6 or 7 game lead or whatever it was. Yeah. Like, you already did your work, so I'd rather see that. But I get that messes with the TV components and the scheduling and all that. So, if this is what it is, great. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, thumbs up for me. And why this is news is it had been being approved on a year by year basis. Now it's just being locked in as being a part of things.
Right. So now it's here to stay, and who knows? Maybe we'll do a play-in tournament ring now, Keith. Maybe that's something that needs to happen. Is since we're doing summer league rings anyway, right?
People get so mad, like they're charging us for that. Like we all had to, send $5 to, give us, like, who cares? Let them have fun. It's, this is. I
just mean like, who's wearing their summer league ring, or,
Did you see the memes of the Pawn Stars where they're like, it was the first year they gave one out, so it must be worth something, So I thought that was pretty funny too.
I like that. Good stuff. Yeah. Good stuff. Well, let me, I don't even know anything about these. Let me call a buddy of mine who knows a lot about this, and he's gonna tell you it's worth about 70% less than it actually is, so I can get the best deal.
Yeah.
But
those are cubic zirconias, not diamonds. So let's go from there. Yeah. Right.
Oh man, this league.
So silly and great.
Yes, it is. All right. Well, we've got more Summer League action coming up. Tons of stuff going on. We've got tons of interesting matchups. And of course, we're going to be keeping an eye on a lot of stuff from the Kevin Durant situation, Kyrie Irving, Ayton, all kinds of things. So make sure you are subscribing to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Don't forget to ring that notification bell as well, and follow us over on Apple Podcasts. We love that 5-star review. If you guys wouldn't mind taking 20 seconds, give us that 5-star rating, and then toss something in the review as well. We'd certainly appreciate that. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.